The autumn wind cut through the city streets with a chill that even the finest overcoat couldn't fully block. David Harlow sat on the park bench, his polished shoes resting on the cracked concrete, the soft crunch of fallen leaves beneath them unnoticed. Around him, life pulsed with ordinary joy. Joggers' rhythmic footsteps, the laughter of children chasing kites, dogs tugging their owners along the winding paths. Yet David remained untouched, a man standing amid life as though separated by a glass wall. Instruction. Show David's isolation through his internal monologue and contrast with the lively park around him. He glanced down at the bronze plaque on the bench. In memory of those who find solace in quiet moments. It seemed oddly apt. For all his accolades, his multi-million-dollar deals, and glossy magazine features, David had become a man acquainted with solitude. The higher he climbed, the further he distanced himself from the people he might have loved. Each victory had its price. Empty rooms, silent phones, invitations to parties where conversations felt like rehearsed performances. A soft giggle broke the monotony. David looked up. A small girl with a crooked ponytail and a pink jacket too large for her frame stood in front of him, holding a worn stuffed rabbit. Her eyes, curious and unafraid, met his, a quiet, unflinching honesty that pierced the barrier he had built around himself. "Why do you look so sad?" she asked, tilting her head as if weighing the answer with careful precision. David blinked. He was not used to strangers, especially children, addressing him so directly. I'm not sad," he said, voice tight. "Just thinking." She scrunched her nose. "My mom says when grown-ups say they're thinking, it usually means they're sad." A faint smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. "Your mom sounds very wise." The little girl climbed onto the bench without waiting for permission, her small frame almost disappearing into the expanse of polished wood. She swung her legs, humming a simple tune. "I'm Lily," she said, raising her stuffed rabbit. "This is Mr. Bun. We come here every afternoon after school. My mom works late at the cafe down the street." David nodded silently, feeling the weight of his own isolation. Children existed in a world he had long forgotten, a world without schedules packed with meetings, without the relentless pursuit of profit, without the need to maintain a perfect image. Lily studied him for a moment, then leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You know, you can be in our family if you want." David's throat tightened. He stared at her, unsure whether to laugh or cry. "Your family?" She nodded seriously. "It's just me and Mom, but she says families aren't about numbers or rules, they're about love." "You look lonely. We could share." For the first time in months, David felt his chest unclench. He thought of all the boardrooms where people had bowed to his power, all the networking events where every smile felt transactional. No one had ever offered him the simple, unassuming gift of belonging. "That's very kind of you," he murmured, his voice catching. Lily shrugged as if it were no big deal. "Mom makes spaghetti. You can come. Mr. Bun says it's okay too." Something inside him cracked open. For the first time in years, laughter spilled from David without restraint. He looked down at this small stranger who had dared to see him. Not the CEO, not the man of status, but the lonely person beneath the suit. "I'd like that," he whispered, almost to himself. Lily beamed, her small hand brushing against his. "Yay, Mom will be so happy." David glanced around the park, the wind swirling leaves around them. Somehow, in the midst of ordinary life, he had found something extraordinary, a chance to belong. The walk from the park to the little cafe above which Lily and her mother lived was short, but David felt the weight of every step. The city lights flickered in puddles left by an earlier rain, casting fragmented reflections on the sidewalk. Normally, he would have walked briskly, focused on meetings or calls, but tonight, the air felt different, lighter, as though it had been infused with possibility. Instruction. Emphasize mood with reflections on city lights and David's tentative curiosity. Lily skipped ahead, her small boots clacking against the wet pavement. "Mom's making spaghetti," she sang, "and chocolate chip cookies. You like chocolate, right?" David smiled, the sound foreign even to himself. "I do," he admitted. The building they entered was modest. Peeling paint on the stairs, a faint smell of baking drifting through the air, a few mismatched chairs lining the hallway. To David, accustomed to marble floors and designer interiors, it was humble, yet somehow comforting. Here, everything felt real. No pretense, no hidden agendas. Just life, lived in the small, messy, beautiful way it was meant to be. Lily fumbled with the keys, finally opening the apartment door. Her mother, a woman in her early 30s with flour-dusted hands and a warm smile, appeared. "Lily, you're back early," she said, though her eyes softened when they fell on David. "Oh, and you've brought a guest. This is David," Lily said proudly, tugging at his sleeve. "He's going to be in our family." David hesitated, unsure how to respond. He had never been proudly introduced in a setting like this. Not in boardrooms, not at galas. And yet, the warmth in Lily's mother's eyes disarmed him completely. "David, it's lovely to meet you," she said, her voice gentle, not perfunctory. "Lily talks about you all the time." He nodded, suddenly self-conscious, noticing the tiny imperfections of the apartment. A chipped mug on the counter, a stack of comic books teetering precariously on a shelf, a small cat sleeping in a sunlit corner. In his skyscraper penthouse, everything gleamed, but it had no life. Here, life hummed quietly in every corner. Lily pulled him to the small kitchen. "Mom says you have to help set the table," she declared. David complied, awkwardly arranging mismatched plates and silverware. Each movement felt strangely grounding, a contrast to the meticulous, controlled gestures he used in his professional life. When dinner was served, David hesitated, fork poised over the steaming plate of spaghetti. The aroma, tomato, garlic, a hint of basil, was enough to make him forget deadlines, stock prices, and the endless pressure of success. Lily chattered non-stop, telling stories from school, from imaginary adventures with Mr. Bunn, from the family meetings she held with her stuffed animals. David listened, laughing more than he had in years. And then Lily leaned over, placing her tiny hand on his arm. "See, families are fun." Her mother joined in, sharing anecdotes of her own childhood, of the neighbors who had been like family, of moments small yet meaningful. David felt a warmth he hadn't known he was missing. Each story, each laugh, each ordinary gesture of life slowly chipped away at the walls he had built. By the time the chocolate chip cookies came out, slightly uneven but perfectly baked, David realized something remarkable: he belonged here. Not because of what he could give, not because of his name, not because of his wealth, but simply because he had been welcomed. When the evening ended, Lily tugged his hand. "You can sit with us anytime," she said, her eyes sparkling. "Our family is bigger now." David left the apartment that night walking lighter than he had in years. The city no longer felt cold or distant. Somewhere between laughter, spaghetti, and the simplicity of belonging, he had found a home he didn't know he had been searching for. The morning sunlight streamed through the cafe window, casting golden streaks on the wooden floor. David stood awkwardly behind the counter, attempting to carry 2 steaming mugs of cocoa without spilling a drop. Lily darted around him, humming a cheerful tune, balancing a tray of cinnamon rolls as if she had done this 1,000 times. "Careful," she called, tugging at his sleeve. "You don't want to ruin Mom's special recipe." David laughed, a full, unguarded laugh that had been absent from his life for far too long. "I think I can handle it," he said, though the tray wobbled precariously. Her mother, wiping her hands on her apron, watched him with a fond smile. "You're getting better every day," she said softly. "Lily's a good teacher." Instruction. Show David's integration into family life through playful, ordinary moments. It had been 2 weeks since David first walked into their apartment. At first, he had felt like a visitor, a temporary guest in their small, sunlit world. But now, each morning, each shared cup of cocoa, each messy spill and small victory made him feel more like he belonged. Lily grabbed his hand and tugged him toward a corner table. "Come on, we have an important mission today." David raised an eyebrow. "A mission?" She nodded solemnly. "Yes, the mission is Operation Paper Plane." She handed him a folded sheet of notebook paper. "We have to see how far it can fly. And you're in charge of the launch." David chuckled, shaking his head. "I haven't launched paper planes since I was, well, never mind. Let's do this." They spent the next hour laughing as the planes soared across the cafe, some landing in the stacks of books on the shelf, others gliding perfectly to the corner near the window. Each misfire brought peals of laughter from Lily, and David found himself joining in without restraint. He realized he hadn't laughed like this in years, not in boardrooms, not at lavish parties, not even in moments of personal triumph. After the mission concluded, they sat together on a worn couch by the window. The light of late morning fell across David's face, softening the sharp edges he usually wore like armor. Lily leaned against him, her small frame radiating warmth. "You're different now," she said thoughtfully. "You smile a lot. You don't look sad all the time." David looked at her, surprised by her honesty. "Do I?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she said simply. "It's nice." Over the next few days, David began to involve himself more fully. He helped Lily with her homework, sometimes struggling with simple math problems she breezed through, and she would giggle at his mistakes. He cooked breakfast alongside her mother, learning how to scramble eggs just right and realizing that the satisfaction of a well-made meal was far sweeter when shared. He even joined in their small weekend trips to the park, carrying picnic baskets, flying kites, and sometimes just sitting silently on the bench, watching Lily run and laugh, feeling a strange sense of completeness he hadn't known he was missing. One evening, as the sun dipped below the rooftops, Lily tugged at his hand. "Promise me something," she said, looking up at him with wide, earnest eyes. "Anything," David replied. "Promise me you'll never stop coming to our family." He smiled, feeling the lump in his throat. "I promise." It was a rainy Saturday afternoon, the kind where the sky seemed heavy with silver clouds and the world felt slower. David stood at the edge of Lily's small apartment balcony, watching droplets race down the windowpane, and wondered how he had ended up here, laughing, cooking, playing, and feeling alive. Lily tugged at his sleeve. "Come on, you promised." David glanced at her, seeing her tiny figure wrapped in a bright yellow raincoat, hood up, boots laced tight. "I did, didn't I?" he said, following her downstairs. The city outside was wet and glistening. Puddles mirrored neon signs and umbrellas as people scurried along the streets. Lily led him through the park, her hand small but firm in his. "We're going to make the best paper boat race ever," she announced. David smiled, feeling the same childish thrill he hadn't known he still possessed. They bent over a small puddle near the fountain, carefully placing their folded boats on the water's surface. Lily counted down. 3, 2, 1, go, and the tiny vessel skittered and spun, eventually one of Lily's leading the race. Laughter burst from her like sunlight breaking through clouds. David's chest ached. Not from exertion, but from the joy of sharing a moment so pure. "Hey," he said, feigning indignation. "I was totally winning." Lily giggled. "You're learning. That's what matters." They sat by the fountain, dripping wet but unbothered. David pulled his coat tighter around him, glancing at her with a mix of awe and affection. "You know, Lily, I used to think families were complicated. That you had to be born into one, or something like that." She tilted her head. "You just needed the right family. And we like you." David felt a lump in his throat. He remembered the quiet office, the empty penthouse, the soundless nights filled only with the hum of the city. He remembered thinking he had everything, yet had nothing. And now, here, in the rain, with the laughter of a little girl ringing in his ears, he realized what had been missing all along. Before he could respond, Lily's mother appeared, umbrella in hand, cheeks flushed from the brisk air. "David, Lily, get in the car. You'll catch a cold." David helped her both inside, drying off as best he could with a towel from the kitchen, laughing as Lily shook water from her hood, droplets scattering across the counter. That evening, as they sat together on the couch with blankets wrapped around them, Lily leaned against David. Her mother passed around hot chocolate, the aroma of cocoa and marshmallows filling the room. The rain continued outside, but the apartment was warm, warm with light, laughter, and the quiet certainty of belonging. "You see," Lily said, looking up at him with her wide, honest eyes, "families are about love, not rules. And you're part of ours now." David swallowed hard. I can't believe how happy I feel," he said, voice thick. "I thought I was too old, too set in my ways, too," he trailed off, realizing words weren't enough. "You're just right," Lily whispered. Her mother nodded in agreement. "You've brought something into our lives that money and success could never buy." You've brought joy, and that's priceless. David looked at them, the room, the soft golden light that made everything feel like it was exactly where it should be. He realized that he no longer needed to chase empty victories, boardrooms, or accolades. He had found a family, not perfect, not extravagant, but real, loving, and accepting. For the first time in decades, he felt truly at home. And as Lily fell asleep with Mr. Bunn clutched in her arms and her mother softly humming a tune, David sat back, wrapped in a blanket, and let himself believe in something he hadn't dared to believe before. That he belonged, that he was loved, and that sometimes, the simplest invitation, "You can be in our family if you want," could change a life forever.